want to publicly thank you for all you do and know that it is not an easy thing in a time when we know I can say what you shouldn't say is that we got to make sure that we take care of those who are on the inside of these kinds of companies. That's our job, to ask some hard questions in a time when we know that corporate America, under what happened with affirmative action, it had nothing to do with affirmative action, corporations, there are things that are happening to our communities, the arteries of upward mobility, the things that allowed us to break out of poverty, to not just survive, but to thrive, to become multimillionaires, billionaires. There are things that are happening. 8A program is under attack. There are things that are happening. And yes, we're in the walls of corporate space, but we're partners with them, so we can be real about what's happening and respectful at the same time. Can I get an amen, preacher? I'm off script. Let me get back. But thank you, Tanya. Can we give her one more? So, welcome to our second annual Black Women's Roundtable, and we shifted the title a little bit to be more focused about what we're talking about. It's a Women of Power Leadership series that we started. And so it's about gathering like we did last year, because we can celebrate and work. Say celebrate and work. So we're here to celebrate ourselves, sisters, and a few good brothers, but also to have serious conversation at the same time. And so there's much more I can say, but I do want to recognize the National Coalition board members that are in the room, Black Women's Roundtable conveners, and members that are in the room. Would you all please stand and be recognized, Coalition board and Black Women's Roundtable members and conveners from Michigan and Mississippi and Georgia, Maryland, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right? Right? For those who follow politics, listen to them states. Yes, yes. And because of time, so I have more that I'll say in my closing. And of course, our National Coalition team, the person I work for every day really is Tanya Tyson, running around here somewhere. Okay, and Angelo and Tyrese and Daryl are here. I don't see, I see and some of our senior advisors. I don't know if I see Joy Cheney. Yes, and Jocelyn hit Jocelyn Tate somewhere. And I'm off script again, so get back. So we're gonna move this program along. And I'm gonna ask two folks to come up and follow each other. I know, Hank, you gotta go down the street to the 100 black men. There's 100 black men down the street. There's a black. I'm coming through. Y'all wonder why I got the yellow. I had it for you too. So I'm going to ask Dr. Pitt. I'm off script. That's bad, Tanya. But they are down the street. And I know Hank has to go down, and Hank Stewart, who is an Emmy Award-winning poet, author, and he's an activist and organizer as well. He used to be with Rainbow Push, right? But has been doing phenomenal work, not just as a poet, but also running his Hank Stewart Foundation, where he is pouring into this next generation for how many years now? 18, he's had a big, 18. Yeah, you had a big event. Yeah. Invite us. Yeah, okay, I will. We're going to always have, invite us. You know you got it. I'm coming. Okay, and so Hank's going to do the tribute to all of you, but also to our honorees, because he does have to be two places at one time today. I don't know if Hazel Dukes, I don't think she's here yet, but I'm going to tell you who is here. And that is Viola Fletcher. They call her Mother Fletcher. And Mother Fletcher is the oldest non-survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre. You may have seen her on television. She is in this room. That's right. So we're going to have Hank. And she's an author. Yeah, remember. And so, and thank you. And she's an author. Don't let them bury my story. the oldest living survivor, as I stated, of the Tulsa race massacre, in her own words. You are a gift. You are a blessing. And I've been, fangirling you, watching you talk to Congress and everybody else. We have to, and Marcia Dyson, Reverend Marcia Dyson in the room, who is with you, who reached out, and thank you, Marcia, calling me on Saturday. I answered because it was you. Right? And thank you, though, for your leadership and for bringing Ms. Fletcher here today. And we wanted to take the time to pay tribute to you, and hopefully if Hazel Dukes arrives, we'll do that as well. But I know she wasn't sure. Thank you, Hank. And then following Hank will be Dr. Penny Brown Reynolds, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights, USDA, to bring our inspiration.
Okay. So I'm so honored to be here with my sister, Mel, and I'm so glad she put me ahead of Dr. Judge Penny Brown Reynolds. So, I really didn't have to go that quick, but I knew who I was behind. So I got smart and said that I'm going to, come on up. Dr. Dorothy Height once said, "Black women seldom do what they want to, but they always do what they have to." Powerful statement. Dr. Janetta Cole once said, "You can educate a man, you educate an individual, you educate a woman, you educate a nation." Dr. Yusef Ben Jakanen says she's dipped in chocolate, she's bronzed in elegance, enameled in grace, toasted in beauty, my Lord. She must be a black woman. Eleanor Roosevelt had to be talking about her sister when she said, "A woman is like a tea bag. You never know how strong she is until you put in hot water." Then I read one of the most interesting quotes. It says, "To be born female is a matter of birth. To be a woman is a matter of age, but to be a lady is a matter of choice." Yes. Strong women wear their pain like they wear their stilettos. No matter how much they hurt, you still only see the beauty in them, right? And so when I think about this, I think about this quote, this English professor, Dr. Skinner, wrote on this wall, and he said, "I want all of my students to punctuate this sentence, Judge." He says, "I want all my students to punctuate." And it was a very simple sentence. A woman without her man is nothing. A woman without her man is nothing. So all the men boldly got up and said, "A woman, comma, without her man, comma, is nothing." But Ms. Fletcher got up and she said, "A woman, colon, without her, comma, man is nothing." Some of y'all will catch that on the way home, right? You'll catch that. So we know that you have that it factor. You all have that it factor. We can't live without you, can't do it without you. And this poem is 2 letters, 1 word, is simply entitled, It. When she walked into the room, there was something very special about her. Something really unique. Not the kind of special you see a stranger. You see, she has what we would call it. And her it is extraordinary. It's got us tripping. I must admit, what is it? Well, I'm glad you asked. But let me suggest something, fellows. If you ever see it and it's available, do yourself a favor and make her your wife. You see, it is confidence. It's an air. It is pride. It knows how to handle adversity. It takes things in stride. Now I'm talking about it. It cannot be inherited, nor is it willed, and it's not genetic. Just because your mother had it doesn't mean that it will grace you. I promise you, I've seen some ladies who thought they had it in Miss Fletcher. They didn't have a clue. Now I'm still talking about it. It knows when to speak, and it knows when not to say a word. It is like Godiva chocolate. You see, it is preferred. It knows which fork to use. It frequents plays. It doesn't raise hell. Instead, Mel, it chooses to pray. You see, when she smiles, you see it. When she laughs, you hear it. When she tells you something, you believe it. When she hurts, you feel it. When she dances, you want to move with it. You see, a man wants to love it. He wants to hold it. He wants to cherish it. He wants to protect it. Every man knows his life is incomplete without it. You see, for it, she is the prototype. It's like she doesn't walk, she glides, and around it is this light. Now, you can't find it in a special section of the store. You can't order it offline, and trust me, there'll be no articles about it from the press. But one thing for sure, it sure knows how to wear that green dress. It can be defined by height, age, shape, color, size, or any of those things. It could be single, divorce. It might be wearing a ring. You see, it is all or none. You can't have just a little bit of it. It is classy, sophisticated, and elegant. You tell the way it stands or the way it sits. Now, how many ladies in here believe they have it like Miss Fletcher? Raise your hands. Well, put your hands down because it cannot be claimed. It is humble. It doesn't even know it has it. It is just that plain. Now, there's no class or seminar you can take for it, and you can't study it in the manual. It is not a membership-based club. You can't pledge for it, and there's no fees to remove annually. It is a lot of things, but it gives more than it takes. Well, all that it is one thing, you can't fake it. The poem is entitled It. And you can never make an ain't an it, just to let you know that. So I'm going to get out of here on this piece, but thank you. So I know you didn't have dessert, so I'll be your dessert. Right, Mel? Okay, so how many sisters in here like chocolate? How many of you all know that chocolate is good for your health? How much you know the darker the chocolate, the better it is for your health, right? Now, don't get me, I'm just writing poetry. But this poem says, I know why you don't feel good, sweetheart. It's because you need a little bit of chocolate. Chocolate can improve your circulation. It can feed that craving and that temptation. Girl, what you really need is a little bit of chocolate. It can lower your blood pressure. Or it might take it off the chart. It can soothe you on a night that's hot, but girl, what you really need is a little bit of chocolate. Now, study shows chocolate has other health benefits. I can't prove it, but I'm sure it's that chocolate that gives you a burst of energy in the middle of the night that just won't allow you to quit. Girl, what you really need is a little bit of chocolate. Now, the doctor says chocolate is good for your heart. That white chocolate is okay, but for maximum strength, you better find you some chocolate that's dark. Y'all have a good night.
We all thank you, Hank, and just understand. Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? Hank, thank you. And we all have it, and we like dark chocolate. Thank you. Next, we will have our inspiration from Dr. Penny Brown Reynolds, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, but she is also so many other things. Former judge. I met her many years, and then I know you. Okay, yes, ma'am. And she is a pastor, not former pastor. Her husband married me. It's not his fault. It didn't work. So we bring up Dr. Penny Brown Reynolds. And I still like my ex. He's good. Good friend.
What we all love, and greetings, my sisters, my beautiful sisters. What we all love about my sister is her authenticity. We knew her back then when she was working with Mrs. Lowry and others in SCLC, which is where I came from, because I'm civil rights from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. And so with all that I am, what I do love about her is that she refused to shrink her gifts to the size that they could stand, because if she stood in an environment where they didn't value her, she would have to shrink and go into the background, and she refused to do that. Let's give our fearless leader a round of applause. Now, this food is hitting every way it can, because our hostess is from New Orleans. And you know, New Orleans people value food, that koinonia, that time of coming together to breaking bread. Let's give our hostess another round of applause. We know each other's families, but after today, she is my cousin. You know how that goes. I don't know where she is right now. Just indulge me. I won't do too much, but I have to do this because I support black women, and I don't know any other way to do it. Helen Butler is the premier individual in the state of Georgia, because I pastor in Atlanta, although I'm here now working for the administration. Helen Butler Because of all the work you've done, this is why I'm even able to do what I do. Stand up, Helen Butler. Incredible with voting rights in. President Biden owes you for those 10,000 votes that we had because you were on the battlefield for that. And then Hank Stewart is my brother beloved. And then this young lady with this beautiful afro is my chief of staff. She went to Tougaloo and from there, the University of Mississippi for both a master's and law degree. She comes out of the White House, Senator Booker's office and Representative Thompson's office, Benny Thompson. So you know she's civil rights through and through from the great state of Mississippi. Stand up, young lady. Years old. Tuesday will be 1 year in that position. I could do no less than have another black woman that I could pass the mantle to when I'm gone. Because we understand that our true greatness as black women, powerful black women, is the fact that we understand we didn't get here by ourselves. Queen, we thank you so much for all of the sacrifices that you have made. And as it relates to our other honoree, who is that coming? Hazel Dukes. Guess what's going to happen on Friday? If you want to come and hear a fireside chat between me and Hazel Dukes on behalf of the NAACP and Black Women in Power and Civil Rights, we will be there at 11 o'clock on Friday, she and I. So buckle up your seats and get ready for it, because the truth will be told, and I'm looking forward to that. I've been asked to do some inspirational words because my sister values spirituality and we understand the power of the black church as it relates to black women. I'm going to get to the prayer because that's what she asked me to do. But before I do that, any good preacher got to take a moment. So we have, from the very beginning of time, from the Middle Passage when they brought us from the shores of West Africa, dealt with that seasoning and brought us into this place. We have borne the struggles of our ancestors. Yeah. They all now watch from that great cloud of witnesses in that balcony. Yeah. And I know that they are proud because we're doing what we have to do. We always show up. Yeah. And we don't just show up, we show up with our pain that somehow we have to bury and put aside because the work has got to be done. Yeah. And it's done from advocacy, it's done where we are, it's done in corporate America, it's done in federal government, it's done in the black church, it's done in nonprofits. I'm sitting here with the baddest sisters you could want at this table, and they're talking about taking young people on college tours. We do it all every day. Yeah. Sometimes not because we want to, but because we have to. Yes. Yes. That's the power of the black woman. But we change things. We play pivotal roles in voter mobilization and voter turnout. Elections are won and lost based on the turnout of the black woman. Yeah. More than 2/3 of black women turned out to vote in the 2020 presidential election, the third highest rate of any race gender group ever voting in America. But in the late 1800s, more black women worked for churches, newspapers, secondary schools, and colleges, which gave us a larger platform with ideas. So it didn't just start with us. Our grandmothers, Big Mama, Mama and them, Granny, they may not have had the education or the opportunities or the titles that we had. But every step that is ordered of a black woman came at a price because of all of those who paid the price so that we can be at AT&T or we can be at any place we want, including the White House. Somebody paid a price, and it was a black woman because we nurtured and took care of not only our children but other folks' kids. And we raised them and we fed them, and we have been paying the price. And it is so I understood that how you do anything is how you do everything. And we do everything with excellence because for me, my mantra, and I tell that to my staff, excellence is non-negotiable. because I don't have the luxury of not showing up, because when I show up for you, I show up for you. I show up for everybody, because when I open my mouth, I'm speaking for black women, no matter where I am. We do that for one another. So what are we here for? Individuals like Melody Campbell. You're either here for the cash or you're here for the cause. Period. And it tells how you show up. Now, economic prosperity, we are entitled to that, no doubt about it. But the work that we do in civil rights, it's not about that. It's about the cause of understanding that marginalized people need a voice, and we will not fade into the background anymore. We have a fight on our hands for civil rights. I work for USDA, which has a long history of systematic discrimination. They sanctioned me being here because times have changed, because they're bringing people here who have an obligation. With the 417 days that I have left until the next election and the 487 days until the next administration comes in, I have a clock that's talking about what are we doing to make certain that what we do is not the same. Because as I said the last time I was here, wrong has no expiration date. And we got to do what we have to do by the people that are counting on us. And that is black farmers. I am the granddaughter of a black farmer. And I'm a proud granddaughter of that, because we know that whoever feeds you controls you. USDA has every aspect with its 129,000 employees, of which not only am I Deputy Assistant Secretary, I run the whole place, but I am the EEO Director to the 129,000 employees. And my job is, and I came in with the anointing, you hear me? The anointing is upon me. Because you are in spaces where you can't be afraid to shrink and not call on God. And let me tell you about this. Thomas Belsack, the secretary, told me when I got this position, I said, listen, I'm a pastor and I'm married to a pastor. I've been on the battlefield a long time. And he said, that's what we need for you to turn things around. Don't you ever shrink about who you are. You walk and you be where you are, where you are. So that's why I didn't have to put it in my private name. That's why I could walk up here under the administration of the presidential appointee of Joseph Biden, and guess who else? Vice President Kamala Harris. So with that, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then we will hear from heaven. We will hear from heaven. We will forgive their sin. And we will heal the land. There needs to be a healing in the land. Let us pray. Dear Lord God Almighty, how awesome you are. We are gathered here today because we can't do anything without you. Anything we try to do without you will fail. And so, Lord, I thank you for the leaders of this great organization that understand the power and the necessity of invoking your presence in anything that we do. We ask that you help us to draw closer to you and to give us clarity and to come together to do all that we have to do, Lord, when we speak. Maya Angelou says we don't have to shout a whole lot, but give us the words of wisdom and discernment and mother's wit from our grandmothers so that we can embrace one another, our similarities, our differences, and our concerns and our joys. Because, Lord, when one falls, we all fall. Lord, we need you like we've never needed you before in the area of civil rights and human rights, rights toward women and autonomy and the agency of our bodies. Lord, rights for those who are disadvantaged and those who are marginalized. Lord, if we ever need you, all that we are, all the strategizing, we can't do what you can do because nobody can do it like you. And so, Lord, we're calling on you right now to settle us in our spirits, that every conversation does matter. It serves to encourage and enlighten and educate and inspire. And for that, we're grateful. Inspire our hearts, heal our wounds, bring us peace and against all of our worries and our disappointments. And Lord, thank you for the black woman. There's nothing like the black woman. Continue to take all my sisters gathered here right now and let them know that you hear all of their worries, that trouble don't last always, that you are just a call away, and that we speak power, not just power that man and woman can give, but Holy Ghost power. May it fall upon this organization and every effort that we have. Lord, let us speak into existence those things which do not exist. And we speak winning and we speak freedom like never before. In the matchless name of Jesus, we pray. And all the sisters and the brothers said, amen. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amen.
Dr. Penny Brown Reynolds. And you know, you make me think about my sister Penny. You know, I got a sister who passed away, who was my sister's sister named Penny. So whenever I call your name, you bring my sister Penny in the room. So thank you so much. Thank you for that word. And so we're in the house of AT&T. So there's no way we're going to be in the house of AT&T and not talk a little technology. And so it is my pleasure to turn this podium over to our sister Dee Marshall, CEO of Diverse and Engaged LLC. And, you know, as Black women, we wear a whole lot of other hats. And so Dee does what she does in the corporate space, but she also pours in. And she utilizes her knowledge, her expertise, her vision, her spiritual. She don't leave, like you say, when you leave how you got here on the side, it's gonna leave you on the side. So she never leaves that part of her. With Girlfriends Pray. She's an advisor to Black Women's Roundtable. She's helping us to build out what we're doing along with her and Jocelyn down at the Thomas W. Deutsch Institute in Atlanta, and so many other things that I know you help folks, especially Black women who are in business, to see and meet their dreams and aspirations. So Dee, turn it over to you. She will be leading our fireside chat on Black women leading in technology policy and innovation.
So I'm going to start here so we can move us along, because if I go over there, we might be here a minute. So, so we're going to start. Actually, my charge, first of all, good morning. Good morning. I'm feeling some kind of way. I'm feeling full. And not just the salmon, but baby, that Right Reverend Bishop Dr. Penny Judge, did she just deliver an awesome word? And so I'm so grateful. Can you hear me better now? But I want to move along our program today. I have been invited to moderate this flash talk. But again, I just want to say, Right Reverend Bishop Dr. Judge Penny, whenever you are in the room, in fact, whenever Black women gather, it is always a time. We are always fed, well-stretched, affirmed. Everyone in the room is someone. And so I'm super grateful for you and for the word. And I'm super grateful for Melanie Campbell. No one does this so well. To gather the leaders. She is really well known for gathering all of the leaders, and we are in a room full of leaders. Every woman here responsible for leading your own charge wherever you are. And so again, I just want to acknowledge Melanie Campbell, and then Tanya Lombard is always the one that's going to underwrite, co-write, authorize, co-sign. She's going to make it happen. She is a gatekeeper of our community. So want to thank AT&T and want to thank Tanya Lombard for always just saying yes. So a round of applause for that. Okay, so as Melanie mentioned, we could not be here and not talk about technology. So I am going to invite to the stage our two guests for this flash panel. Say flash. Okay, it's going to be flash, and someone is going to keep me honest with time. They said it's 15 minutes. I'm looking at you, sis. I know you're going to keep me honest with time. I want to invite right now Anissa Green, Director of Federal Regulatory, Chief of Staff for EVP, and Chief Regulatory Officer of Corporate, External, and Legislative Affairs for AT&T. A round of applause as she comes. And then I am going to invite Nicole Turner-Lee. Hey, there she is right here. Nicole, you want to sit over here. Director of the Center for the Technology Innovation. And also she's a senior fellow governance studies at the Brookings Institute. Thank you, gorgeous, both of you, for being here. So a round of applause for them. So we're going to talk about technology. Hey, girl. Hey. Hey. Welcome. So we're going to have a brief conversation about just being a Black woman, being a leader, where you all are and what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and what we need to know, because you know the audience today is, of course, all Black women. And we are in a moment and a movement right now, right, in terms of Black women being on the battlefield always, but now being somehow targeted in ways because of, you know, the work of those like Helen Butler, right? And people are outside of this room are not happy with how it is that we lead and move. And so we want to just have a conversation about that. So let me start with this. So the first question in this conversation about Black women leading in technology, policy, and innovation is really about the tech landscape. So let's talk about this right now. So the tech landscape it's rapidly evolving, and there is a need for more diverse voices shaping policy and innovation. We know that there's a need. However, the representation of Black women in these spaces, it really is still, you know, it remains limited. So you know where I'm going. Look, they already looking at each other like, girl. But now, are we being recorded? Because we just need to make sure we keep it okay. So we are live. Actually, we are live. That's good information to know, because we need everybody to keep their good government job. Okay, keep your good government job. But can you all share, you know, just what motivated you to rise to leadership in your respective fields, knowing that it is difficult, it's challenging, you're often one of the only. So talk a little bit about, you know, what inspired you to rise, and then also, how do you see the role of Black women evolving in tech policy and innovation in the coming years?
Wow, that's a fantastic question. And you go first. Okay. So yes, my name is Anissa. I am born and bred, Caribbean descent, Brooklyn girl. So part of that motivation is Brooklyn all the time. I walk in the room with Brooklyn on my back. And then my mother, of course, to sound a little corny, she comes with me everywhere. So I'm going to make her proud and make sure I string the words along. She invested in this brain, and I'll try to make sure that they are enunciated properly. And so the inspiration, I think, is a little bit of faith and, I don't know, just not being afraid to be who I am in a room, whether I'm welcome to be that person or not. So I, of course, descended here from Brooklyn, and I think I always had a plan to go home. I still call that home. Yes, I love DC. Yes, I do. But home is still Brooklyn for me. And I went to G-Dub. I got myself an apartment. I didn't know too many people. But I started at this old company called Ameritech. How old are we? Yeah. And so Ameritech hired me as a senior at G-Dub. I'm sorry, the George Washington University. And kept me. That is the only career I've had, 25 years. Later, I'm sitting in front of you. And so I went through 6,000 mergers. You know, we did the whole swirl thing, and then we came all back to AT&T, but I'm not the legacy AT&T. I am a Baby Bell originally. And then as I went through my career, just doors started appearing in front of me. And I said, well, I might as well put my name on that, even if no one else invited me into those doors. And so I did that. And my leadership started to really appreciate some of the doors we opened. And those doors from community, so that we are representing the community that we serve, I started opening up those doors. And I got a wonderful opportunity to meet Dr. Nicole Turner-Lee. I do say her full name all the time. And then some of the other women in this room, and I just stayed on the course of, let me go ahead and keep opening these doors, because I kept them ajar so that the women behind me continue to not be afraid and be able to walk in these. I was like, what is technology? What is that? I love something shiny. I love things that look nice. And so technology is definitely still my bread and butter. But I think it's important to speak the expertise that sits in this brain in a way that we can all understand. And that has been my true motivation.
Yes.
Wow. So I'm a little older than Anissa, but black don't crack, and that's why we all look good, okay? And I'm gonna try not to evangelize after Reverend Dr. Judge.
I know.
But there's nothing like being in a space of black women, nothing like it. And this stage, not this new stage, but Tanya Lombard, many of us would not be here without her in tech.
That's right.
So let's make that real clear, that you gotta pull people up to be able to get to where you are, and Melanie as well. You know, I'm looking at Crystal and Kim and so many people. We were babies when we started in tech, and we were different. We were not the norm, and we still are not the norm. Black women are hidden figures in technology, and we need to change that. It took Katherine Johnson 40 years for people to recognize that she put white men in space.
Yeah, yeah.
40 years, and we can't do that again. We cannot do that again. So I'm so excited about Anissa's work. I work with her on several projects, because what it says to me is that we are finally picking people up and bringing them into organizations. I don't work for the government, and I'm unapologetically black and unapologetically able to say what I want to say. But I'm gonna tell you this, at Brookings, I'm putting the black back in the beat, because we just hired a black woman fellow under my team. And that was a major, major hire in addition to our black RA. We have to take ourselves with each other. We gotta be together. Yeah. So how I got into the space is interesting. I'm a PhD in sociology. I'm a New Yorker, lived in Chicago, came back to DC. But as a sociologist, you are commonly looking at what W.E.B. Du Bois said and others about these systemic systems of oppression. And oppression happens for black people in so many ways. We experience trauma in ways in which we cannot even unravel what that trauma looks like. I was watching a show the other day, and a woman said, the reason we have to have people like us, black women at the table with lived experiences in every vertical of life, is because we are close to the pain. And when we're close to the pain, we can rectify the pain. We can show up and make that pain something that is not painful for future generations. I have a daughter. That's important to me. I always say to people, I do this job for our maker. I do it for my kids. I do it for the people before me who laid out the carpet and said, run, girl, do what you have to do. And we're seeing black women do that in all spaces. But it is a lonely space. As a hidden figure, there weren't many technology people that looked like us sitting on tables. You know, thankfully, companies that still believe in diversity, equity, inclusion should continue to believe in diversity, equity, inclusion. There's no reason why they shouldn't. Still struggle, particularly in this area of technology. And it's no secret, everybody, that we're dealing with some serious civil rights implications in the area of technology. I have a forthcoming book coming out in the quarter. Some of you are like, where you been? I've been working on this book for 2 years on the U.S. digital divide that will come out from Brookings Press. But I did that because I went from Washington into our communities to realize that people experience tech in a variety of ways. There's a woman in Marion, Alabama, where Coretta Scott King grew up and T.D. Jakes grew up. And she is a high school principal of a K-12 school. And when I went to visit Kathy Trimble, she shook every hand of every student that left her door. She was a recipient of Obama's Connect Ed program, and every kid had a laptop or tablet, but she hugged every child. Every child. I took her with me to PBS when they asked me about the digital divide and to be on their show. I've taken her with me to the superintendent of associations. For me, technology is effectuating every aspect of our lives, but it's doing it in a way where the people in power are making the decisions. So I show up. A lot of people used to say, you show up everywhere. I'm going to show up in every seat that does not have somebody that looks like me. Fortunately, there are more people that look like me. I ain't got to show up at every event now. My husband, I just got married last year. Now, for those of you, there's still hope, second marriage, right? He said, you got to go to everything. I said, sometimes I do, right? Because if I'm not there, our voice is not there.
Yeah.
And so as a sociologist, it's important for me to continue to challenge systems of power, repressive action, technologies that make us subjects versus creators, that are basically creating carve-outs and continuing these carve-outs in ways that we can't do our jobs as seamless as we want. And I challenge technologies that manipulate our narratives and our voices. Misinformation, disinformation is real, but you know what else is real? The lack of media ownership. When we have no outlets, it makes it hard. So I do my work simply because people like Melanie, you know, people like Tanya, you know, they call you. They make you show up. Somebody said, your hair looks nice. I said, I had to get it done this week, you know. I know I was coming around my sisters, I gotta represent, right? But my point is we've gotta show up. And the more we show up in technology, we become less of the subject and the currency use of technology. So what the landscape looks like today, my sisters, as we have this talk, you know, the access to technology, which I write about in my book, Digitally Invisible, How the Internet is Creating the New Underclass, is basically dismissing our voices. And it's in many respects, we no longer live in an analog world. We cannot, as Black women, for example, engage in healthcare, and remote medicine is like the thing now. We need technology to educate our kids. So we have right now this big $1 trillion investment in broadband infrastructure, and that infrastructure is going to be distributed to all of the states. But we have an obligation to make sure it meets our communities. It should not go in the central parts of communities and miss those of us that have been resigned to the edges, right? We need to participate in this money as business owners, as consumers, as builders, as digital literacy trainers, as insurance underwriters, as installers. The range of possibilities are endless. And then there's this other part of technology that is in the debate, which is artificial intelligence. How many of you have been on generative AI? Okay. And how many of you are just shocked how well the King's English tells you about yourself? Generative AI is just this new extension of artificial intelligence. And we've always had artificial intelligence. It's not a new phenomena, right?
Yeah.
We've always had ways of processing, positioning recommendations of movies or figuring out what we need to purchase next. It's not new, right? In fact, probably Black women created it because we've always had to come up with some type of artificial intelligence to make it through the day, right? I just told somebody that the other day. We are the hidden figures when it comes to technology, but we also have generative AI, which a great lesson is curated information. It's information with eyes in the back of the head. It's not new information. It's 1 year late. But what's happening, we're not sitting at these tables. We are the subjects. Every purchase we make, every movie we look for, every relationship or swipe we make, it actually captures and curates our data to make other people who do not look like us wealthier. And for me, that is an issue that we need to talk about because I was just speaking with a Department of Education on the use of AI in schools. And they said, Dr. Turner-Lee, don't you think it's going to be a huge advancement, particularly since we have a teacher shortage? We could actually give them new tools to teach our babies. We can figure out ways for teachers to do their lesson plans. And I said, you know, as a child of an educator, I want to say that it's a positive a piece of technology, but I also want to say that the people who designed it and the hands that it's in has the potential to further profile and surveil our kids.
Yes. Well, that is listen, we have went to class, to school, PhD. There was so much, it was so rich. And so thank you so much for just such a rich share. because there was so much there, and I want to be mindful in a room of leaders when we come to the end of this. We really do want to know the call to action, right? Because as leaders, that's why we have the seat. That's why we hold the seat. When there's a limited number of seats in the room, as leaders, we convene together to learn, to up-level in spaces that are not our primary space, right? Because tech is not our primary space. But when we have sisters in the seat everywhere, we could fan out and then ask the question, what do we need to know right now? Right? What are the challenges and what do we need to do right now? So thank you so much for all of that. I want to come to you, Anissa, and because Dr. Nicole Turner-Lee, you mentioned something about the challenges and the obstacles, and I held that, and I want to come to you, Anissa, and I really want you to share a bit about, as you navigate the corridors of AT&T, especially in the realm of, I mean, you are in federal regulatory space, and so you deal with all of those matters. And I can only imagine what that might be like as you're smiling, as a Black woman. So talk about some of the challenges and then also the opportunities you see specifically for Black women in tech.
Okay. I know it's like a softball, but then I don't want to overwhelm. So
just the top line, because
top. We're gonna do top because we got like 3 seconds, right? So, and I respect everyone's time because it is valuable. So I think top of mind right now is affordability, a broadband affordability. That is definitely in my space. It is on my lap, and is top of mind because ACP is the program that was funded by a statute that Dr. Lee has been talking about, and the FCC is running out of money. Yes. The program is running out of money, and it may very well exhaust as early as next spring. Yep. And that means most of our communities will not have the broadband connectivity that they are afforded today. And so top of mind, call to action very quickly is make sure you get the word out that this program exists, not just amongst the leaders in this room, but in the communities. Be the steward that talks about this program. And make sure folks know about it, know how to navigate the digital space, because there is some skilling that may come along with that. There's a lot of resources out there, some of which are AT&T driven. Yes. There's also community organizations that will help get the connection. And then we need to get the word out to Congress that this program needs to be refunded. And there's so many ways that you can do that. You can annoy your congressperson, which don't say that AT&T told you to do that. Anissa is telling you to do that.
Because we need Anissa to keep her seat. Let me help you out. We need Anissa to keep her seat.
We want to be here. But make sure that we will definitely just get the word out, get your community organizations to get the word out that we need this program to be refunded so that we can keep this. It's a three-legged stool. Adoption, access, and affordability. We need this leg to stay part of this table so that we can continue to do our jobs and close the digital divide.
That's right. That's right. That's good. That's a good call to action. Were you going to add something to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. I mean, this is a moment in history where we have more money than we've ever imagined. I've been doing this for about 30 years. This is the largest allotment of broadband infrastructure funds and the largest allotment of money that is going towards affordability. 20 million people have signed up for this program. So if this program goes away, that's 20 million people that are going to have to figure out between paying for broadband or bread. And so it's particularly important that we pay attention to this federal programs. We got a lot of other issues. Right. We can sit around our dining room tables and our lunch tables and talk about all the issues that Black people have to deal with. But keeping people connected, when they're in digital silence. And they cannot do the same things that many of us in this room have the luxury of doing. And that's why I'm so excited and honored as well about you. Because, how we organized then is so different from how we organize now. And we need everybody connected.
So last question, I think, before we are nudged to wrap, I want to ask this question about how do you believe technology, or let's just say tech policy, can be more inclusive and equitable, and maybe some steps? So what are some of the steps?
So
I felt the whole energetically.
So let's speak from a community perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because of course, as an ISP, that might have a different, an internet service provider would be a whole different perspective, I think, but I think they harmonize. How do we ensure that there's diversity and it maintains diversity is to be intentional. We have to be intentional in the AI space. We have to be intentional in how we create these pipelines. How do we get jobs? How do we get them into the community? I think that intention is probably the key word there. And then I won't do a commercial, but Dr. Lee could do a better commercial.
Well, I would say, just for the sake of time, I think elements towards movement building in the policy space are going to focus us in 3 areas. One is education. We need to educate our peers that technology is not just about getting on social media or just doing things or being consumed in it without a benefit. We need to also engage people as creators. We are beyond. I did a panel yesterday with HBCUs. Our HBCUs should be generating patent holders, entrepreneurs that are in this tech space. So that's the third thing. And then I think the final thing that we should be doing as part of movement building is refusing and resisting co-optation and cultural appropriation.
Okay, say that one more time.
Refusing and resisting.
Louder, can you just speak in the mic?
Refusing and resisting cultural appropriation. And let me tell you what I mean by that. These systems run off of our data. As Black women, our data is not, well, it's either not in there in clinical trials when we're trying to use AI for healthcare. We're underrepresented in clinical trials, and none of us want to be Henrietta Lacks, right? We want to make sure that our data is fully represented in these data sets. So that's the first thing. But on the other side, the data that they have about us is traumatized. We live in externalities, conditions, housing, our households, our stress, mental health. I was getting a lesson from Dee on the way in about how to recalibrate my own mental health. We live in traumatized circumstances, and that data gets put into these systems. Resist conversations that suggest to you that you have to willingly give your data. Ask for privacy from your legislators so that you can hone that asset. The last thing that many of us own is our Social Security and our data. And the last thing I would say, resist the option to say no when you can bust into that room. Honey, I sit on the National Academies of Science Commission on facial recognition use. I'm the only Black woman on that committee. I have had more gray hairs come in my head that this weave got to be tight this week or else you're going to see many of them come out. And I don't care because we will resist the temptation to be intimidated by other scholars in this space. So I would leave it there. There are things that we can do now as a call to action to our legislators, but we need a paradigm shift. And that shift, I think, for me, if we do this right, is going to make sure technology is inclusive, equitable, fair, representative, and not culturally appropriating our trauma and our experiences.
Thank you for that. And because we are in AT&T's house, I'm going to give you the last, or I'm going to ask you this as the last question. So thank you again, AT&T. There's a woman in this room, or a mom, an auntie in the room, and I want you to speak to what would you tell the young Black woman who is interested in a career in tech, or what advice would you give to a young woman in tech to help them break through the glass ceiling? To you, AT&T.
30 seconds, right? So, one, look at those job applications and apply. Do not decide that you do not qualify. Apply for it. Tell them that you are a lifelong learner and you're a quick study and that you are willing to start and learn a new skill. Two, I would tell that young person, girl, you got it.
That's it.
You got it. And don't ever let anyone tell you that you don't. Even when you look in the mirror, you tell yourself you ain't got it. You got it. You got it all the time. I don't have a daughter, but I am a fearless daughter. And my mother always told me every day, you got it.
That's it.
And if they talking about you, you definitely got it.
All right, a round of applause, everybody. A round of applause for our flash panel. Thank you so much. Round of applause. Round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dee. Anissa and Nicole. Brilliance. Say brilliance. Tanya Lombard, we're going to come up and we're going to do this tribute. Reverend Siobhan Arlene Bradley, President. Well, I'm going to call you Arlene. You know, from the South. Arlene Bradley. Basara, Sister in the Battle, President and CEO, National Council of Negro Women. But as they're coming up, let's give our tech policy experts a round of applause. Trudy Lucas, come up. So this is a special moment that we felt we must do, that we are honored to do, and that is to honor two phenomenal Black women and hear their words of wisdom today. And look at your neighbor and say, you're wise. You're wise. Look at the other one and say, you're wise. But when you've been around 100 and how many years? 109. 109 years. You're wiser. At 91 years. I'm not sure. Am I right? Is Mama Duke's in the house yet?
She's coming.
Okay. So we'll start. Okay. So we're gonna start. When Mama Duke said we're gonna do this. Yep. So we'll start. Marcia, come up. Reverend Dr. Marcia Dyson, who we are so excited. You're in trouble now, everybody. She back in town. I didn't know, because I was holding on you. But I'm gonna have her. That I have remarks, but I want you to help us to give the inspiration tribute to Mother Fletcher, Viola Fletcher, who's here in the room. And tell me how you want us to do. We want her to come up. We can come to her.
It'd be nice if we could stay in position.
No, whatever you want us to do. If she walks with this mic, okay. We're gonna come to you. Let's go over here. Yeah. She's the oldest. Yes, we want to give you, this is just a token of our love and appreciation and respect for you. The fight, not that you've been on, but the fight that you're still on. And that's to get justice for our people and real reparations for our people of Tulsa. So Marcia, would you share more specific words for us?
First of all, we know that as we look toward our economic development and the prototype for the future of Black communities to rebuild itself, we do look at Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I was there this spring, and every time I went to one of the landmarks that told the story of how this beautiful Black community was destroyed just because of its pigmentation, it made me weep. And I thought about still the strength of the people who migrated to Chicago, New York, that actually helped to boom those particular cities. But here we have sitting a 109-year-old woman who refuses, as you said, the woman in technology, to let even artificial intelligence appropriate our culture and our words, that we will not let them bury not only her story, because her story is our story. We are tied and anchored to one another, not only in DNA, but through our not only through our legacy of slavery, but through our hopes and dreams of progressing. So we have the ship of Zion right here. We have a Marcus Garvey right here. We have a black star. Thank you, Tanya Lombard, for allowing this to be a black star so that we can sell all these hopes and aspirations, not to Liberia and Africa, though internationally I have to talk about that later in another forum, but to be here and situate. And thank you, Melanie, for making space and room for her, because this was quite impromptu. And so I want to give the opportunity for the woman. I'm not going to bury her story, so I'm going to let her tell her own story.
My name is Viola Fletcher. I'm 109 years old. And I wrote a book that says, don't let them bury my story. Mm-hmm. I believe in reading, and you could kind of remember what happened. Mm-hmm. It does to me. So I hope one will be interested in buying one of my magazines.
All right, thank you, Mother Fletcher.
And with her is her godson, so can't overlook him, and also Mocha, who is responsible for helping to get her book. Please buy her book. Support her. Support this culture. So over at the convention center, Mocha, who has known as a bookseller. I mean, we've hosted so many of her books. So please, but buy this so that her story can live on, so our stories can live on, not only digitally, but in print, because reading is fundamental. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And just thank you, Mother Fletcher. Amen. Oh, at 5 p.m. today at the exhibit hall in the convention center. 5 p.m. today. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, not here yet. Not here yet. So we're going to take an intermission. No, come on, because we ran in. Give me another. No, sweetheart. Come on. You're going to speak. We now. Okay. All right. Doctor, I remember giving you your information. Yeah, give me your information. I don't want to just, Doctor.
I'm a podiatric surgeon. Foot surgeon.
Okay.
Foot surgeon. Doctor.
No, give me your name.
Raglande, sorry.
Okay. While we're no,
Let's talk a little about touch on toad and business.
I know we just meet. I got you.
Yes.
I got you. All right. While we're waiting, we're going to hear a few more words on from the technology from Dr. Yolanda Ragland, who's also obviously really much knows a lot about technology, but she's also a doctor, a medical doctor, a foot surgeon. So come on up, Sister Dr. Ragland.
Okay. Use this microphone.
Use that one. Use that one.
Okay. Hello, I'm Dr. Yolanda Ragland. I am a podiatric foot surgeon, and I was honored. Thank you, Tanya, for putting this together. I think this is a wonderful assembly, and I was really thrilled that it was about technology. And so I want to talk about how racism has actually been mechanized. At the Fireside chat, they touched on some points. But what we really need to focus on is who's writing the code for all these algorithms. Algorithms, AIs, black boxes, they're all the same, but who's writing the code? We know that people are inherently biased. So when they write their code, they too become inherently biased. And it affects all of us. It affects us from getting credit. Steve Wozniak said that his wife got 10 times less the credit in Apple credit than he did, even though they share all the same assets and bank accounts. It's being used to evaluate teachers. In New York City, this is how they get tenure. In Texas, there was a teacher who had been teaching for 20 years with stellar results, and they started using AI to judge whether or not they should continue along as a teacher. And all of a sudden, this teacher was a bad teacher. United Health has admitted that through AI, it's prioritizing medical health for white people over black people. It is grossly racist, and it's terrifying. So, it's great that we want to push along policies, but the problem is these codes are not regulated, and that's what needs to be done. So what I want to put forth here, because I have been affected by AI. I almost lost my business. I'm an out-of-network practitioner, which means that you can't go into a book and find me, so I have to find you. My Facebook account was hacked. They stole tens of thousands of dollars out of my ad account. They placed ads that were not conducive to the community of Facebook. And then after an appeal, and I'm going to put air quotes in an appeal, which was determined by AI, I was banned from Facebook forever. They went a step further. They kicked me off of WhatsApp. So I'm currently on WhatsApp with a Google Voice. I had no person to turn to. So I got victimized. I got robbed. My business almost shut down because the primary source of how I found my patients was taken away from me. Not only did they take away my Facebook, they took away my Instagram, which was really where I was getting most of my patients from. And it was through a miracle. I belong to a Black women's group, and someone just so happened to work for Meta, and it's 6 months later, that's the only reason why I got my account back. I would have never gotten it back if it wasn't for this connection. Okay, and I was banned I couldn't even get a private account, ever. So there needs to be policy put into play to regulate these codes, and we need to start changing who's writing the codes, because all these codes are being written by people that are not women and that are not Black. And that's all I have to say about that. So I'm Dr. Yolanda Ragland, Fix Your Feet, and thank you so much for giving me this platform to talk.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for telling your story. And Jocelyn Tate over there, who's our senior tech policy advisor, but also now is director of our new digital equity program. Stand up, Jocelyn. Beats us over the head. We gotta deal with this issue. So if y'all don't know each other, Jocelyn, we need to definitely connect. And Jocelyn, we're having something a little later too, so we'll make sure that we are announcing that before we leave. Tanya Tyson, while we're waiting, Tanya Tyson. And our intermission can be showing the video. Would you show the video? Thank you. Let her catch her breath. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna let her catch her breath. So we're going to hear from Tanya Tyson about what's happening next for Black Women's Roundtable. Can you cut that up so that people can hear it, please? Can they cut the volume up?
Today. We honor you today. We glorify you today.
Good afternoon, ladies. I'm Tanya Tyson, Vice President of Operations and Events Management. So we just showed our Black Women's Roundtable National Summit for last year. So of course I want to come up and plug our upcoming events. So December the 12th, we have our Spirit of Democracy, 26th Annual Spirit of Democracy, and that will be at the Hamilton Live on December 12th, 2023. And of course, everyone should have received this palm card, and this is our 2024 National Summit. It will be at the Hyatt Regency, Crystal City, March the 13th through the 17th. So I hope to see all you there. Thank you. Hey. Anybody want pictures before I get off? Okay.
So, give Tanya a real,
Absolutely.
my sister Penny found her for me. Can y'all believe she didn't talk? She was quiet. Can y'all believe that? And we were trying to make a decision. You don't mind me telling the story, Tanya? Do you?
No, tell the story.
And this was in
They need to know.
2010. Our sister passed in 2011, and she was our event manager. Ruby Penelope Campbell Pulliam was her name. And I had a couple of sisters that were working in.
And they was acting funny toward me.
Because she didn't talk. And we had to move, and we had to downsize at that time. And I only could take one of the two. And I was going to take a lady to talk. My sister said, you need to take time.
Amen.
And you've been a gift in my life.
Beautiful.
She will cut somebody. We're not nonviolent. Non-violently, she will cut you. Speaking of non-violent who will cut you.
Well,
in love and is serious about our people, who is serious about the movement, who is serious about the NAACP Spin Guard Award winner. Tanya, come up. Tanya Lombard, come up. Okay. Is Mama Hazel Dukes.
Yes.
Who's our other mother of wisdom, who's here today that we want to just pay a special tribute to you. And of course we did with Dr. Mama Fletcher. But Mama Dukes, I met you some years ago, and you know all the leadership. But I don't care where you are. If you with Mama Dukes, she's gonna lift you up. That's right. And you, in times when I didn't even know I needed it, you've lifted me up, and I know you lift up thousands of others. And I just want to say thank you. And this was just a way we wanted to just. I told her, ain't gonna be Spin Guard. Can't beat that. But we just wanted to top. We had women of power whose shoulders we stand on your shoulders. Yeah. And so we got a couple of sisters who stand on your shoulders who are gonna bring words of tribute. And then we're gonna hear from our sister Trudy Lucas, another South Carolinian Caleola, who's gonna come up and in song provide those tributes as well. So Reverend Siobhan Arlene Bradley and Tanya Lombard will come up.
It's not often that you get to be very close to a living legend. When she met me, I was just Siobhan Arline. But through my tenure as a young woman and becoming a real woman, she walked me through marriage, where we added that Bradley name. She's taken care of my family, specifically my son, who has about 12 grandmothers, but there's only one Granny Dukes. But I want to say specifically to you, Hazel and Dukes, we honor you today in a different way. We cannot do more than say these words other than not only thank you, but we thank God for you. Yes. Oftentimes, we take these seconds for granted, and I've had her for a long time by myself. When I watch you, Hazel and Dukes, there is not a generation that you haven't touched. From infants to presidents of the United States, your impact has gone above and beyond. So as one of the younger daughters on your long list of children, now don't tell Roz and Karen are sitting right over there. They get jealous. I told them I'm really her favorite. They just don't know. Hazel Dukes, thank you for being exactly what God called you to be. You are not only mother, you are leader. You are a trailblazer. You are a woman of God. Yes, you're mother to Ronald, but you're mama to all of us. And as this Delta in green gives this Delta in blue some love, I want you to know that this moment we can never get back. Take advantage of every second you can, because you don't know when it will be the last. Now, you're going to outlive most of us in the room, probably.
That is true.
But if you never hear any other word that I can say, I love you with all my heart. I'm grateful for what you have done for every woman who is here. And thank you for taking the stuff that we didn't even know you took. Thank you for blocking some of the things that we didn't even know were coming. And as a woman in the NAACP, sometimes the matriarchal moment is overridden by the patriarchal moment. But she has risen to the occasion that when they say NAACP, they won't say many other names, but they will know this name. This humanitarian awardee. Come on up, Sister Tanya. Hazel N. Dukes, your daughters love you.
Yes.
And this award is 100% for who you are and for what you mean to us. Would you please stand with us? I might get a beating after this, but okay. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Come on, Mel.
Be seated, children.
Yes, ma'am.
I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praises shall continue to be in my mouth. What a wonderful day to look across this room and see my sisters and a few of my brothers. Thank you for being here. When I look at Cleola Brown, think about the wars and the fires we've been through. You looking good, sister. Because prayer will do it. Prayer will do it. Didn't make phone calls, but I stay on my knees. So much gossiping, backbiting, and talking don't do it. I talk to. That's why at 91, I'm standing here black, strong, and beautiful.
Yeah.
Dressed to the nine in my family.
Come on, Nine.
Because God is good all the time. Let me tell you all a story about this little girl who was born in Montgomery, Alabama. My grandmother was named Sarah. I'm sure her parents didn't know what they was naming her. They found the name. On my father's side, my grandmother had twins, and they died at childbirth. There was a boy, his name was Cornell, and the girl was Hazelnell. And so when I was born, first grandchild in the family, they named me Hazelnell. Now, do you all know what Hazel stands for? Princess. That was it. So they made this little black pretty girl. I was born pretty, I wasn't ugly. Everybody in the family said I was beautiful. And I had a godmother who could sew. I could change clothes on Easter 3 times. I said my recitation, didn't read it, recited it, word for word, because my teacher in school was my Sunday school teacher also. So I knew how to be a little lady and be proper and could read. It wasn't, no, it was my head up high. So that's why I walk like a queen, because I am a queen. Don't get it wrong, don't get it twisted. So I used to walk in Montgomery, Alabama, down Mason Street with my grandmother. Oh, she could iron those shirts. They didn't even have to go on a hanger. They could stand up. And we would go through some streets that would say, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a nigger by his toe. And if he holler, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And so I would say to Mom, what? She said, don't worry about them. She said, Jesus keep me near the cross. There's a precious fountain, free to all a healing stream flows from Calvary's mountain. In the cross, in the cross, be my glory ever, till my wretched soul shall find rest beyond the river. Now listen, children. Listen, children. There's only going to be two things on the tombstone. The day the sun rose and the day it died. So as great black strong women, we got to be about our business here. We just got a few more days.
Oh my.
Few more days. So don't have the long eulogies, the 3-hour funeral. Leave the children. Every morning when you wake up, say, how are the children doing? Leave something behind besides what they can fight over. Material things, because they fade away.
They do.
But if you have a soul like the Karen Blanding,
Wow.
like Karen Boykin Towns, like Siobhan Arline, like Melody, these are the children that we saw, that we brought up.
Wow.
I remember when Adora Oweezy would, everywhere she would go, oh, that's Melody Kelmer from Florida. I remember fighting with some men when I nominated Cleola Brown to be in charge of the NAACP Image Award. Uh-huh. Oh, I got to tell you something. How many of you remember the story I told about when I met Donald Trump? Well, this little black girl, black mayor, David N. Dinkins, thought it was not robbery to make me the president of New York City All-Track Betting Corporation. Not another woman, black or white, had ever been in that position for the racing industry. So they told me when I went to Pendleton that I had to have on a hat and how the white women who walked with their husband looked. I went to Saks. There was a black sister. I had on the baddest hat they had in Saks. I had on the baddest St. John that they had in St. John. And I walked in there and everybody was white men. Donald Trump was sitting at the head of the table. I know I didn't look like a maid, but he didn't know what the hell had walked in the room. So the conversation began, and it was time for New York City to become chair of the men. And so they said, now, Mrs. Dukes, you are the incoming chair. Will you have your seat? And I took my seat, and he looked at me, stare, and I said, I called the meeting to order, and I went around the room, and it was for time for him to say his name. He kind of snared. I said, oh, Mr. Trump, you're a neighbor of mine, because when I moved to New York City, I went on East 68th Street. I went to Harlem. I moved to Harlem by choice. You know what I mean? So I let that sucker know that I was not only in that seat, but I was a neighbor of his. And I said to him in the meeting, he started talking. I said, excuse me, nobody speaks when I speak. And I learned that from Dorothy Irene Height. And I told them at that meeting, the Black Women Agenda, when they honored me, I said, if Dorothy Height would, see, I went with Mother Height when she told Edward Kennedy, God bless the dead, Edward Kennedy had a white man to make Secretary of Labor. But when we walked out that room, who became the Secretary of Labor? Who? Who? Y'all don't know? Y'all don't know who became the Secretary of Labor? Who? Alexis. Because Mother Hyde. Come on. With that hat, shoes, and pocketbook matching. Pocketbook matching. Okay? So I learned from the best. I know not to go looking raggedy. Come on. I know how you're supposed to look. Not with your dress up your booty. You ought to look like you're a professional. People respect you when you look like that. That's what we got to tell our young sisters. How to walk in the room like Tanya Lumber. I watched her. Okay? I watched her. We got to tell our people that clinch ought to be. We ought to close it up. We not for sale. We go and attend to business. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Yes, ma'am. We got to get back to womanhood. See Dolores Tucker. Call the roll, children. Don't you know that we're standing on the shoulders of great women who did not have the opportunity that we have today, but they paved the way so we could be here? Why in the devil, in the name of hell, are we walking around here? Right. We are great. Yes. We beautiful. Black don't crack. People want to fight me, tell me I'm not 91 years old. I said, I know when I was born, I got a birth certificate. I didn't even have to send for it. They did have birth certificates when I was born in Montgomery. And they had vaccine. I couldn't go to school till I was vaccinated. So crazy folks around here talking about they don't want vaccine. Where in the world have you been, crazy? Don't come around me if you don't want to be vaccinated. So the power, Melody, of us is great. But we got to get rid of crabs in the bag. Now, I know you don't like me. That's all right, because I love the hell out of you. That's what you say to them. That's why I have lived so long. When I hit my bed at night, I go to sleep. Because you know what? Anybody who have wronged me, when I say my Our Fathers, I ask them to forgive those who trespass and sin against me. That's what I do at night. So I sleep. I don't take no pills to go to sleep. I don't take no energy stuff, whatever it is. I take God. He keeps and guides me. And don't think I won't cuss you out, but I will. I will get you. And Cleola, they can ask some of the men. Let me tell you, I was at an NAACP meeting, and it got hot. And the man said, that bitch needs to sit down. I went and got him, Cleola, you remember that day? I got him by his tie, and I drug him over. It took 5 men to get me off of him. Okay? I don't play. When Jimmy Carter was running, I was on the Democratic committee and had worked hard for Jimmy Carter. And he came over there in the New York delegation, the New York Times, it's on record. I pulled off my shoe and beat the hell out of him in Madison Square Garden. What? Yes, I did. Yeah, it's true. New York Times recorded this on the page. Right. Yeah.
Come on, warrior.
Yeah.
Come
right.
on, warrior.
Yeah, I'm a warrior. But I love each and every one of you.
Amen.
Everything that's black. I love it. The city of New York just named, I have 2 school districts, the Hazel Dukes Initiative. And I was telling Karen on my way down, we want to look at a STEM center and name it after me. Because how are my children doing? Just as God blessed this little girl from Montgomery, Alabama, to dust the streets with pages torn out of the book, and song with niggers, go home on it. I made it. I know we can make it. I know that there's little black and brown boys and girls will be the next Obama. We don't have to talk about the first and the last. I know that they can find cure for cancer. We are brilliant. But if we stop our naysaying, always complaining about who's not doing anything, and you sitting your rump at home, watching as the world turns and the world is turning. Come on, women. Come on, women.
Come on.
Come on, women. As Jesse Jackson say, the hands that rock the cradle. The hands that rock the cradle. God made such image and such greatness in us. Let's take it. I love you guys. Thank you for all that you do and all that you love and show.
Mama Dukes, words of wisdom. Thank you, Mama Dukes. Thank you, Tanya Lombard, for opening this space for us to gather. And we're going to close out our tribute from our sister, dear sister, Trudy Lucas, who is the Director of Religious Affairs and Strategic Partnerships. Did I get it right? Almost right. The National Action Network from the great state of South Carolina, Charleston. North Charleston. Yes. I got it right?
Yeah, you got it right. I got it right.
One quick question, Tanya. We have 2 more quick short panels. So we do 15, 30 minutes, okay. And for those who can hang with us, we got 2 more short panels. So about 30 minutes, we're out. Okay, thank you.
And I'm just going to be obedient to my sister friend who asked me to do this, Mother Dukes. Thank you for all that you've done. This little song comes straight out of Psalms 121, and it simply says, all of my help comes from the Lord. I will lift up mine eyes to the hills, from which cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He said he would not suffer thy foot to be moved. The Lord that keepeth thee, he will not slumber nor sleep. For the Lord is my keeper, the Lord is my shade upon thy right hand, upon thy right hand. Nor the sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. He shall preserve thy
soul, even forevermore. Oh, my help, my help, my help, all of my help coming from the Lord. Thank you, thank you. So, you know, we do it Essence style with our conversations here. And so we're going to move swiftly to our next conversation. We will be out of here no later than 1:30, okay, time, 1:25, 1:25-ish, okay? All right. Business. Lisa, wait. Thank you, sis. So we're going to have a conversation with Black women leaders in business and philanthropy, Black women leading in diversity, equity, inclusion. So we're going to have this moderated by Michelle Dubois, President, Values Partnerships, and her panelists come up, Shay Harris, Mid-Atlantic Region Director, Corporate Responsibility, JP Morgan Chase and Company, Crystal High, CEO, Influence, Kimberly Marcus, Vice President, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Monumental Sports and Entertainment, Dee Marshall, CEO, Diverse and Engaged LLC, and our sister, last but not least, Renee Redwood, CEO, Redwood Enterprises LLC.
I'll make it happen. 15 minutes. I got you, ma'am. Well, good afternoon. I still have goosebumps. I am just basking in the glow of the Lord that is present in this room. I'm telling you, to be in a room full of Black women, you already experienced the magic, but the magic is on steroids when we point back to the source that has endowed us with the magic. And so I love being here. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much, Melanie, for having us here. I know the word says to not forsake the assembly of ourselves, because in that assembly, we empower one another and we sharpen one another. And I know it's a lot of work, so thank you, Mel, for allowing us to be in this space and for your team to assemble us. Thank you, Tanya, for always opening your doors to us and showing us how you have just shaken up corporate America and have reshaped how this work should and can be done. You've been a model to all of us in this room and many outside of this room, and so we thank you. I don't know if you all were at the summit in March, but I didn't know exactly what Mel meant until today when she introduced me and she said, and this is a sister that'll cut you. I thought she meant because I was from Chicago. And I have realized that it is the highest compliment to be among a sister that will cut you, like Aunt Hazel Dukes, and so many others on behalf of our people. And so I'm very passionate about the work that I do. For those of you all who have not met, my name is Michelle Dubois. I run a company called Values Partnerships with my husband. We are the largest Black-owned social impact agency in the country. We've been doing this work for 10 years. Thank you. Been doing this work for 10 years, helping corporations shape their DEI work in sustainable, thoughtful, intentional ways in which they connect with communities of color. We worked with a range of clients from the Oprah Winfrey Network, Paramount Pictures. Mel always gets upset with me when I don't share this, and so I'm sharing. And we just met with Sephora last night. We had a toast to our equity advisors and equity partners. Melanie is one of our equity partners. I saw Di Brown in here earlier. I'm not sure if we have any more. Okay, yes. And so we had several of our equity advisors and equity partners that we did a toast to last night because they have been working alongside of Sephora since 2018 to help them shape their work in DEI. It is a company that obviously no corporation is perfect, but it is certainly a corporation that has put their money where their mouth is. They have put research behind the work that they do to make sure that they understood bias at a granular level of how women of color come into their stores and didn't always feel included. And I am proud to say that that has been a major turnaround, not only for their store, but they have now become a leading partner with lots of folks within the retail space to make sure that when we come into the room that we feel respected and that we feel celebrated for being there and spending our dollars. And so I say that to say some corporations are getting it right, some are not. Since 2000, we saw in the wake of the murder of George Floyd that commitments went from $66 billion to over $300 billion. And now at 2023, the question is, where is the money? Where are you on this work? And so I want to turn it over to our panel. We have Shay Harris, we have Crystal Hugh, Kimberly Marcus, Dee Marshall, and Renee Redwood, and we are so excited to have you all a part of this panel. Many of my friends, my mentor, Renee Redwood, when I first started my company 10 years ago, she gave me the ABCs of how to run a business well, and so I'm so grateful and honored to be on this panel with you. I would love to start by, of course, I'm a respect Mel, and the time we have probably about 13 minutes left, and so I would love to just start with one question. First and foremost, where are we? Where are we in this moment? What do we need to know about the retrenchment that people are seeing and feeling? And so I would love to just maybe go down the panel. After that, we will get into solutions, but if you can just talk about some of the work that you do and where we are in this moment. We'll start with you, Dee.
All right. So again, my name is D.C. Marshall, and I am the CEO of a company called Diverse and Engaged. And thank you, LaToya. Thank you so much. And the work that we do is our Fortune 500 clients retain us when they have a challenge attracting, engaging, or retaining diverse pop, so diverse culture. Our largest clients are Fortune 10 across tech, CPG, and financial services. And so it is interesting work, but it is, I think I have the pleasure to protest in a different way inside of corporate America, helping to solve some issues and challenges like some of the work that Michelle is doing. And so really briefly, I'll just say the state of DEI, because we do this work. And I'm going to be really honest right now. I am always a strong soldier in the fight in corporate America, but I will be honest.
Take your time. Yeah. Yeah.
In the last few months, it is so frustrating to see the levels of discrimination, disparities, the disregard, and the disrespect for Black people and Black women.
Yeah.
And so I'm managing for the very first time my own race-based trauma. Okay. And so, but I will say this. I'm going to get to answer the question. I'm going to move along. But that's just real talk. It's just real talk. You do the work, but I'm a Black woman first.
Yeah.
I'm a Black woman. I'm a woman of God first, and then I'm a CEO second doing the work. And I have been able to do this for a long period of time without it, contaminating my spirit. But when you see the disregard and the disrespect and the discrimination, I can't do the work. And as an example, I wouldn't be able to sit and do the work with a major bank and see Shay Harris, you see what I'm saying, be discriminated against. I wouldn't. And so that's kind of where I am. Where is DEI? So DEI at the diversity tipping point, which was the period beginning May of 2020, when all of corporate America for the very first time said Black lives, air quotes, do matter, right? That was the very first time that corporations could say, and we could be Black beyond the ERG, okay? So that was the diversity tipping point back in May of 2020. D&I 3.0, which was different from D&I 2.0, which was gender diversity, say gender diversity. That was as a result of #MeToo, that was to benefit white women, okay? And so we went from 2.0 to 3.0, and where's D&I right now? D&I is in the ICU. So I'm gonna say that, and we have to really stand watch in terms of what corporations are doing and how to rally and advocate respectfully advocate, support. If we can support companies in moving along the journey, we should do that. But on the outside, we have to be able to share and tell our own narrative about what is true and what is not true. And we also have to be able to stand and protect women in corporate. Now, we know nobody's going to touch Tanya Lombard. Okay.
Right.
I wouldn't be so sure. Well, but okay, but so to say that, but we have to be able to stand watch, because when I came to Black women's,
I know that's right. I would not be so sure. I think everyone, it's at risk. It is just a code, right?
It's a code.
It's just a day now, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's based on anything. AT&T was the first corporate partner of the NAACP. And we have a long history, but the country, the world is changing.
Yeah. That's real.
That's
talk.
very
so
true. But there will be a lot of people outside of 601 if that ever happens. So we are. So that's right. So yes, I see you, Renee Redwood. We would love to hear from you about where we are in DEI in this.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Renee Redwood, R-E-N-E, 1E. My parents wanted a girl for the firstborn, but they gave me the masculine spelling because my mom said she's a Black girl in America and I've got to give her every advantage because she can get in the door with her resume. It's until they see her that they will know her Blackness, and then they will have. Then my mom actually said to me when I turned 18, and then we can sue them. Because it's clear that it was discrimination because they felt my competence based on my paper. But it wasn't until they saw my person that they determined I was not competent or capable to perform. So that's who I am. I'm Redwood Enterprise, singular, because you only need one spaceship to conquer the galaxy. Why do I say that? Because we individually have the power. And when we talk about DEI and where we are, it's not just DEI in business or philanthropy. We're at a confluence of crisis. In physics, we talk about it as a symmetric breaking moment. Means that we're at a point where positions and people in power recognize their power is so threatened that the programs and protocols that have been put in place have been effective. They would not take them down if they did not work. They would not take us on if we did not pose a true threat to their power. And power, properly defined, is the ability to define reality for yourself as well as others. My message on this is that the reality is that we are strong. Thank you, Mother Dukes. The reality is that we do have power regardless of what's going on around us, that part of what we know, I'm a chemist by training, part of what we know is energy is neither created nor destroyed, it's simply transformed. And how we choose to perceive the environment in which we operate, we control that. We then can control the actions that we can take tactically and strategically. I mean, you can decipher this down. I love science, as you can tell, and literally we can break this down into our paths of power that enable us to say to this system as it is breaking. Because think about it, when you pull a rubber band, it gets to a point before it breaks. Systems of white male supremacy are on the breaking point. It doesn't matter what we're doing, what industry, what sector, that we are at this point. The question for us is to persevere. Because we do have the power. If we did not, we would not be in this room having the conversation with a Tanya Lombard that says, I'm making this available to Black powerful women when I need to and when I have to. And she does it each and every time. And so thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so great to see Mama Dukes in the room because it's a reminder of what you were saying, Renee, that when you're being effective is when they come stronger, right? When they want to dismantle the work that you're doing is when they see how effective it is. And so you can't, you can't grow weary in the work. That's when you know that you need to double down. And so we'll go to our next panelist.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I'm Kimberly Marcus, and I'm the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging for Monumental Sports. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to lead with. But I said, let me know my little name and title. Let's take it back where it is. The reason I'm here is because of this woman here. I started at the NAACP in 2002. I was recruited from Manhattan, New York, by Kwaizi and Fume to move to New York, this little brown girl from California, and he said, and this is your first stop with Mama Dukes. I sat at the hem of her garment. She taught me about civil rights. And we can call it DEI and B. We can call it community relations. It's civil rights, and it's under attack.
That's right.
And I don't know if I'm going to exactly answer your question, but what I'll say is the reason that I sit in this space now for over 20 years, the reason that I don't feel threatened is because of people like Mama Hazel Dukes, because of people like my soror sister Lombard, because of people like Dee Marshall, who calls me up and puts me on her boards. It's because of friends like this in the technology space that we started out on. So, and my girl Chanel and Nicole and everybody else, I can just keep calling out people, but I know that they have my back. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I know who I serve, not whom I serve, right? And so I go in every day and I do the small wins. Now I'm not gonna burn bras and, you know, be arrested anymore like we did when I worked for the NAACP and Jesse Jackson, because I ran his DC bureau for 6 years. Those days are behind me. However, I stand on their shoulders. And that's why I go in each day. And this is what I was telling Dee earlier. I said, I used to give them 12 hours a day. And I knew I was neglecting my family and my husband. And I said, what the white man does in 8 hours, I really can do in 5.
That's right. Twice as good.
So I give him an extra hour. I give him 6 hours, right? But I'm very efficient in everything I do. I have twin boy girls, did it one time. I only had to do it once. That's how efficient I am. And so I am honored to be here with you today. Just have these few minutes to let you know that we're on this battlefield with you. We are under attack. But we have to take care of our mental health first. If we're not good, we can't help anybody else. So anything that I can do sitting in my position of one of 7 of the major teams here in the Washington, D.C. area, unfortunately, we just got out of the running for the Mystics. We just lost in overtime yesterday. But it was a good run.
It was a great run.
But anything that we can do, with my ex-political hat on, with my entrepreneurial hat on, with my D&B hat on, really with my civil rights hat on. Because I'm Black, I'm a woman, and I live with a disability. It's a hidden disability, but I wear it with a badge of honor. I'm dyslexic, and look how far I've come.
Man, praise God.
They told me in the 5th grade that I would not graduate high school.
Wow.
I was a functioning illiterate. I graduated with a 3.9 GPA. Got a full academic scholarship.
Yes.
I got accepted to all of the UCs. UC Berkeley, UCLA. Come on. But you know where I went? To an HBCU. Clark Atlanta University.
That's right.
And that's why I'm the woman I am today.
Wonderful.
Sitting here with you.
That's right.
Mama Duke, it sounds like the children are doing well. The children are doing well. Yes, we would like to continue down the panel.
Sure. I know. Hey, I'm Crystal Hyde Taylor. I helm a social impact content and consulting firm called Influence, and I've had the privilege across many, many years to work at the intersection of technology, policy, civic engagement, DEI, social justice, and civil rights. When we talk about what this moment is, I think this is our leverage moment right now, when it's all about how do we leverage our resources, leverage our networks, how do we work collectively? Because, you know, the times are tough, but when has it not been? Right. You know, Frederick Douglass said, power can seize nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will. And so we understand the stakes that are against us. And if we leverage our collective strength, build power together, we have corporate in this room, we have civic engagement in this room, we have philanthropy in this room, we have organizers in this room, we have media in this room. And together, we don't have to worry about what this moment means because we have the power to transcend it.
That's right.
So this for us is a leverage opportunity.
Yes, right. That's right. So this is a moment of clarity, not a moment of fear, right? Right. The God that has always been on our side is still on our side, right?
That's right.
So we're going to keep moving. Yeah, so I would love to go to Shay. Shay would love to hear from you.
Thank you. Peace, y'all. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Shay Harris, I serve as the Mid-Atlantic Region Director at JP Morgan Chase. I'm part of the corporate responsibility team. I heard we were streaming, so I will start with the corporate line to say, I in part came to JP Morgan because of the racial equity commitment, the loud, audacious racial equity commitment of $30 billion over 5 years. We are on a journey, and 20 billion of those dollars are on the business side, which I think is an important caveat because we will not give our way through philanthropic dollars out of the systemic issues that we all know to be true. That said, now that I've done that, I think we're experiencing a period of whitelash, which is not new, and after every period of perceived or actual advancement for Black people, we experience a pendulum shift. And I think what we are doing and what we continue to do as Black women is to roll up our sleeves and be serious about the liberation of our people. And I will just say that when the pendulum does shift, I think we have to stop asking and begging for crumbs, and I think that we have to demand what we deserve. And I also firmly believe that we have to stop trying to bring everyone along because everyone's not coming. And that's okay. But the ones that are serious about coming, we just have to, I think, get really crystal clear about what the agenda is and how we move. The attacks that we are seeing are now like manifesting and coming to a head, but have been planned for decades, right? And so we have to be that intentional about the policy work that we're doing, that intentional about who sits in certain seats. And I'm stealing a term that I learned yesterday. We got to stop gatekeeping, right, and be gate openers. And so that's what I hope, if you hear nothing else that I say, that we're very serious about ensuring that others are coming along on the journey with us.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, we have to stop being gatekeepers. So yes, Mel has given me we are at time. This has been a wonderful panel. I just want to ask, is there one person who wants to give one final word and then we'll wrap it up? Where do we go from here?
Renee?
Renee?
You know, I was going to say, that's the book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community?
Yeah.
It's community. Because the chaos only gives us impetus to be more organized in a collective, and that we each can give within our span of control, because our sphere of influence is mass.
That's right.
So,
that's the word. Community. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you, Melanie.
Do you want a group picture? D.
Y'all get the picture? Michelle, get the picture? Okay. Thank you. Can we give our panel a great... So Sister Michelle, Shay, Crystal, Kimberly, Dee, Renee. Women of power.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. And we're almost there. And Dee, I'm telling you, I want y'all to give a special thank you to Dee, because she has stepping in a couple of extra steps. She's stepping in again for our last panel, and then we have affirmations at the end, and we'll be out. So our final conversation with Black women leaders in communications, media, and marketing will be moderated by our sister Dee Marshall. Dee Marshall, CEO, Diverse and Engaged, panelist Rachel Noringer, partner, Actum Global Public Strategy, and just all things strategic communications in the movement. Does so much with Reverend Al Sharpton, with National Action Network, with Women with Black Women, with National Coalition. She won't take any money. She's like, I'm gonna help you. Mel, I'm gonna help you, and she's helped me so many ways just as a sister friend. So I do have to give that special thank you to her. Gwen McKinney, communication strategist and creator, Black Women United, Unerased, who's another sister who gives, and helps find money for folks, and has helped our local Black Women's Roundtable and the National Black Women's Roundtable, and she'll almost publicly tell that, so y'all don't think she gonna do that. No, yeah, they say gate opener. Okay, I'm not gonna be a gatekeeper, gate opener, but she will tell you our stories and helping us get to folks who can get to donors, and she has been doing that with us for several years now, and telling the stories of Black women. Rhonda Spears Bell, Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer, National Urban League, and she also a preacher, right? People didn't know that, but just whatever you see happening, That's awesome, awesome. Yes, we love our brother Mark Moriel, but always there's a sister that can get it done, and she does it with grace and style. And we love you, Rhonda Spears Bell, a new sister that I just met a few weeks ago, who is a powerhouse in her own right, Renee Spellman, Chief Impact Officer. Obsidian Works, did I pronounce that properly? What is it now? I'm gonna get it right. Obsidian Works. Awesome, powerful. She has a beautiful smile, but I had a chance to spend some little time at dinner with her with a mutual friend, Janelle, if she's around. And come on up here, sister. And last and certainly not least, if she's still here.
Yes, she's here.
Chanel Hardy, head of civil rights, Google, who comes out of the civil rights community and the movement, and she did not leave the movement outside the door. She brought her right into Google. So ladies and brothers, last panel, and we will close out like we started, and that was with affirmations and aspirations. And I'll bring, and Tanya, I'll bring her up, or you want to bring her up, but Dr. Cheryl, can we get Pelote Williamson will close us out, global leader, producer, entrepreneur. And we'll just wave our hands and say bye after that, right? But that's the order, and so I don't have to get back up until we close. Thank you.
Yes, you want to. All right, everybody. So hang in there. I'm going to take a cue from Michelle Dubois' book. I'm going to ask the one question, and we'll just start down the row. And I think that's how we're going to get the most out of the time and be respectful of time. Does that make sense? Say yes or yes, somebody. Yes or yes, somebody. Mom Hazel says.
And you're going to cut us, too.
Yeah, she said, all right. So again, again, welcome back to the Black Women Leaders series of Black Women's Roundtable. And so for our last panel, actually I'm pinch hitting for someone, so don't hold it against me if I can't remember all of the details, but this is a conversation with Black women leaders in comms. We know that you are, could add and talk about much more than that and beyond that. And so I think the question that we're going to start with, again, a round of applause and welcome everybody for all of these amazing women to the panel. So each of you stands as a beacon of leadership in your respective fields. Like I'm even looking at Chanel like, oh, you could have been on the tech piece and we could have really had a really juicy conversation about that. But again, that speaks to how many hats we wear and how valuable we are. But can you all shed light on how your personal journeys, lived experiences, especially as Black women, has informed your approach to communications and outreach, especially in spaces that may not be predominantly Black? So how have you navigated? This is one question. We're going to go down the row. I'm going to give you the mic once, and then, as I mentioned, we're going to wrap. But it really is about us wanting to hear how you have navigated and bridged, cultural nuances to create a universal impact. So from whatever it is that you heard me say, if you can, again, remind us of who you are and then answer the question however you believe it would be valuable to the room, considering this is a room of leaders, a room of peers, and we are managing for time. Does that make sense?
Yes. It does.
All right. Oh, beautiful lady. Okay. So whoever wants to start.
I'll jump right in.
All right.
It's something about being last. It's good and bad. It's last because some people may leave, but it's the last word. So I'm happy about that. I'm Gwen McKinney, and I am just so thrilled to be here. And I want to just quickly say that Mel, a comedian said being around Mel is like watching someone make a pot of gumbo. And you all know, if she it's in the plate, in the bowl, and just put a little bit of rice on it and enjoy. Okay? So to my sister friend, give you a big kiss. I want to just say that my background started out in journalism. And I was a reporter before I came to D.C. in Philadelphia. And when I came to D.C., I realized that voice and messaging was really critical. And starting in the church basement with a PR firm that was, our slogan was public relations with a conscience. In Washington, does that make sense? But we eventually, that was in 1990, eventually in 1996, moved to K Street, 1612 K Street, and was the first, I don't know if I was the only, but the first African-American woman-owned firm in the nation's capital that expressly promoted progressive communications, policy, and PR.
Wow.
Now, with that, it was generally advancing civil rights. And people don't use the word civil rights that much anymore. Sister Mother Duke, I'm embracing civil rights. Civil rights is what helped us stand up. And in fact, the vast majority of my clients, the people who kept me on K Street, were Black women.
Yeah.
Even though some of the clients were men too, but it was Black women who kept me in business. When I shut down the brick and mortar in 2018, before the pandemic, and moved to a different kind of communications, which ended up being called Unerased Black Women Speak. Please look it up. Our role changed. And instead of just promoting Black issues and civil rights, I am unapologetically pushing the cause for, by, and about Black women. Have nothing against other people of color, the brothers, whatever, but my charge is for Black women. And it's in all our manifestations, the celebrations and the challenges. So that's what I bring to this work. And I really invite you all, please visit our website. I am biased, but it is a hellified storyteller of us. UnerasedBWS.com. Thank you.
And she is Gwen McKinney, communication strategist and creator, Black Women Unerased. Thank you so much. All right, Rachel, should we move on to you?
I'll go.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Rachel Nordlinger. Such an honor to be here, Mel. Thank you. Tanya Lombard. Truly, truly honored, sisters. So my background in PR, Dr. Dukes, forgive me. Mama.
Mama Duke.
Mama. When I was born, my background started. I was born and placed into foster care. And then I was subsequently adopted into a white home. So my background started the moment I went into that white home, because as I evolved in my childhood, I realized that our narratives and what I saw in another community was not represented. Our needs and values, my needs and values, when I looked in the mirror as a Black child and later a Black woman, I wasn't hearing in the home where I was being raised any of the things that made me whole. And so I made a commitment early on. Honestly, it's providential that I got into PR, because I didn't know it was where I was going to go. But I knew that I needed to do something that would enhance the visibility and amplify the things that are so important to us to push the trajectory and move the needle forward. So flash forward, I really fell into public relations and started my career with probably the greatest two human beings that offer narratives. I started working, I launched my company with Johnny Cochran and Reverend Al Sharpton. And so both of whom are very good at enhancing narratives and learning how to use public platforms to push our issues forward. I consider myself a bit of a media activist, right? I've been with NAN for 26 years and worked with other clients that I feel passionately about that are doing the right thing in the community and for us. And we're in a really, really, really scary time. Unless we are able to push our issues forward, we're being swallowed. Everything we are doing is being desecrated. It's being gutted. And so it's imperative that us and anybody else that is in this communication space lifts other people that can come along and be able to help shape narratives. So That's it. I love shaping narratives. That is my gift. And the other part of the things that I do, a lot of communications for me is 50% the high-level media strategy, but it's also the coalition building, because we can't get anything done unless we're putting together coalitions to lift issues. So thank you again.
Very good. Thank you. A round of applause. Rachel, where do we find you?
We can find me at actumllc.com.
Awesome. All right. And so now we go to the beautiful, greatness, gorgeous, Right Reverend Bishop, royalty, regalness. I know, I'm
Not
biased.
Right
Rhonda Spears Bell, we thank you so much for joining us. So why don't we go to you next? I think for many people who may not know you in the room, Rhonda, of course, is Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at National Urban League.
Thank you, Dee, and thank you so much. And are you all enjoying today?
Yeah.
Don't you just love the energy in the room when we come together? That's the power and the force of Black women. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Tanya, for the gathering and the opportunity for this power to be in the room. But it's not just the power. How many of you know it's the anointing? It's the anointing that's in the room. And I'll start there. When you talk about our personal journey, I think many of us work in spaces and areas that we didn't always envision ourselves to be in. But it was because our footsteps were ordered by God that we are here. So I'm at the National Urban League, as you just said. I'm the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer. I have been with Mark Morial, our President and CEO, for years. I actually worked for him when he was the mayor of New Orleans, Tanya. So New Orleans is my home as well. And I call this my second tour of duty with him. But I'm not just there. How many of you know God knows we are placed where we are? That means when you're placed there, they can't just pluck you out and take you out.
That's good.
We're placed there. So when we talk about our journey, whether it was in television, because I too am a Panther, went to Clark Atlanta University. I see some other Panthers in the room. Yes, I see you. Went to Clark Atlanta University, started out in television in Atlanta. A lot of you don't even know that part about me. But from television to radio to the mayor's office to being here in D.C., working in politics and policy, and now at the National Urban League, a lot of my work, most of my work has been mission-based, but it's been purpose-driven.
Let's go.
And that's the difference. Because when we connect our purpose and our passion, when it collides, miracles happen. That's why we're placed where we are. We cannot be plucked out, ladies. We cannot be plucked out. It cannot be plucked out. And I just have to say that because for me, it's not just about the work that we do, but it's the mission that we're on. It's for serving the least of these. It's uplifting, empowering, encouraging, and informing the least of these. We are all in the fight every day. Nobody knows it better than all of you who are in this room, because we're on the ground and we're fighting every day to make lives better, not just for us, but for the people who we serve every day. And I just love that. And it's also not just about a title. I'm a servant leader.
Yes, she is.
It's not about, I don't care about senior vice president, CEO of this, pastor that, because I am a co-pastor as well. But it's about being a servant leader and using what God has given me, but also fulfilling and walking in the purpose that he's given me. See, there's a mandate, because when each of us was born, when you were born, Rachel, the purpose was inside of you. It didn't matter how it came through or who you came through. The purpose was inside of you, and it's for us to live out that purpose. Also, the way that we serve and the way that I serve, and as far as communications, let me get back to communications and marketing, is also, it's about access and providing access to people. Access to capital, access to information, access to the table where you are. We're already at the tables. We're sitting at the tables. We're leading the tables. We're setting the tables. We're creating the tables. But what access are we providing for other people to be at the table? Right? It's not enough for us to just do it by ourselves. It's not enough for us to be the only one. And many times we are the only one in the room. I heard you, Nicole. We're the only ones. But it's about providing access for others and reaching back and sharing what we have with other people, not being stingy. Listen, and I just want to just say this and I'll wrap up. When we talk about Black women and the power of Black women, we are transforming everything.
Everything.
Everything, every sector, everything. It's not just about what we're transforming in marketing, what we're transforming in public relations. We're transforming everything in every area. That is why it's imperative that we continue to speak up, to step up, to be present.
in our voice. Our vote matters. Our voice matters. What we say matters. And let me tell you, they're afraid of us. The reason they try to keep you out and block you is because they're afraid of your presence. They're afraid of your power. They're afraid of your voice. Not the angry black woman voice, but they're afraid of your voice, the intellect, the wisdom, Mama Dukes, the wisdom that you imparted in us. They're afraid of that. It's like I heard someone say, every time she gets up, Satan says, oh my God, there she goes again. You know why? Because we walk with power. We walk with purpose. We walk with dignity because we're servant leaders. We are black women.
All right. Okay, you gotta go, girl. Such an awesome word. Thank you so much for being such a pillar and such a voice and a presence and being so much of what we need. Black women, we wear so many hats. And it's always good to see that we come bold and unapologetic in our faith. Yes or yes?
Absolutely.
Baby, we're going to come black and we're going to come with God. And we're going to come carrying a sword and the word and everything. And so, yes, we do all of it. And a shield and a folding chair. And we will bring the table to the table because be clear, we are the table, we're not the chair. Like that part. Okay. So I'm going to move on. We're going to go now to Renee. Let's hear from you. Renee Spellman, thank you so much for being here with us. We are so grateful to see you. Chief Impact Officer, let's hear from you.
Hi. So again, my name's Renee Spellman. I am the Chief Impact Officer and one of the founding partners at Obsidian Works. It's obsidian like the rock. It appears black when you first see it, but if you have an obsidian, you'll know that it reflects the many colors that is shown within it. And so we are a full-service marketing, creative, and media company. We are Black-owned, minority-owned, millennial-owned, brought to us by founder and my business partner, actor and producer Michael B. Jordan. And we came up with this idea, the name, the company itself, because we have a perspective that we share as friends, as millennials, as Black people in the world. But the reality is that our culture is quickly becoming the majority culture. We are the new American majority. We are the new global majority. Very soon, 1 in 4 people in this world will be African, actually. And so we want to reflect all of the different diversities of the diaspora and beyond. So that's a little bit about our company. But I think when it comes to this question and me and my lived experience as a Black woman, there are a couple of things that drive me. One is that culture, and in particular cultural organizing, is what inspires me to do people-powered change. And what I mean by that, and I'm going to continue the theme of the day, the NAACP is such a core part of my life story. As a kid, I followed my extended family and cousin, Julian Bond, around to every board of directors meeting, every NAACP Image Award. It's actually where I met Michael B. Jordan 20 years ago at the NAACP Image Awards, and had the privilege to learn from you, Mama Dukes, and all of the organizing philosophy and everything that you've brought to your state conference and to the organization as a whole. And so those values and those perspectives are not just instilled from the organizations I was part of, but as Black women, we carry on our family's legacy. And it was the expectation of me, whatever it is that I decided to do. When I first wanted to be a doctor, that was instilled in me. When I decided to go into communications and media, the same thing. Doesn't matter what we do, we are the bringers of our culture into these spaces. We are the organizers of it too. And so while I'm trained as a community organizer, I also understand the responsibility that I have as a Black woman as we go through with our family. The other part is that, you know, with all these tables here, I see the cliques, you know, all that. And but no, and no. And I think that's the reality. The Black woman coined the term intersectionality, right? Because we sit at the intersections of so many different identities. But that intersectional vibe is something that we understand innately. And so a lot of us are sitting at the nexus of so many different networks. And I think that's something that I've always understood that I had to do and have loved to do. And so I think when it comes to media and communications, that idea of we are becoming the new majority, but we're not going to be monolithic as a people. There are so many different aspects of us, so many different avenues that we pursue, so many things that we believe. And so I think that as a Black woman, my experience has reminded me to try to personalize, to target, to make our campaigns feel authentic, and also something that we also feel good about talking about the Thanksgiving table. So with that, I will turn back over, although the Right Reverend got me right earlier.
Right,
so.
right.
Thank you, Renee. Now we'll go to this quiet giant, unassuming boss. I won't say more about it because she doesn't like it, but I think many of you know her in the room. Look, the whole over here, they're nodding. They're nodding. And I'll say this, I think, Gwen, you mentioned, you said something about civil rights, and I'm like, well, the one at the other end of the panel, she's so bold and bad. They done made the big tech giant carve out and call her by her right name and her right title. Say amen, somebody.
Yes, amen.
Mama Dukes, her right name and her right title. She's the head of civil rights.
Yes.
At where?
Google.
Google it. And she is Chanel Hardy. A round of applause for Chanel Hardy.
I just want to, as I was thinking about the answer to this question and listening to the incredibly passionate and fiery remarks that all of you shared, I just have to take a moment. Say, as we talk about how challenging this moment is, because it's a challenge, I'll know, but what keeps me getting out of bed, energized each day is this type of room specifically, right?
That's good.
And knowing the amazing legacy that predates all of us in this room, that all of us are carrying forward, that we're passing to the next generation. Most people who know me know I usually have my little mini-me with me. The first time she came to an event with me was when Dorothy Height was doing one of her teas, and that was when she felt proud to be a Black woman growing up in many ways the way I did in a predominantly white community. And so I say that my love for, I am a civil rights lawyer, so I am not in communications, but I am a communicator.
That's right.
And the passion of my communication actually crystallized for me when I was at the National Urban League, and they asked me to be on a panel, I still can't get over it to this day, with Marian Wright Edelman and Angela Glover Blackwell, and just the three of us. And then they had the two of them, of course, got up and spoke at the podium. And I was just hoping it was going to be just like a panel. I was like, now I have to get up and get on the podium after them? And I looked in the audience and I saw all these women from the Urban League in the audience, affiliate leaders, senior staff. And I was like, well, I'm not impressive enough to stand up here, but all of them are. And I get to stand up here on their behalf. And that was and I can be extremely fearless about that. And so, you know, because I grew up in a predominantly white community in a very loving and tight-knit Black family, I've always been in love with Black people. I just really love Black people. And then I had the opportunity to go to a diverse elementary school for 1 year before I went to a crazy school and had to be homeschooled that was run by a Black woman principal. And it was extremely multicultural, and she made us look at the world. And so I fell in love with the world. And so diversity for me has been a labor of love. So I, as the head of civil rights, get to spend time with rooms that look like this, with rooms where I'm the only Black person, everybody else is Latino, everybody else is Asian American. Tanya knows what I'm talking about. And Native American, and that's a whole nother experience, right? The things that they are struggling with right now. So the power that I find not only in our community, which has boundless riches, but when you talk about the global majority, I mean, it may be going to be majority Black, but it's already majority people of color. And so there's so much power in that. And so that's why I came to Google. We had just gotten to the point, because of pressure from people like the leaders in this room, of releasing our diversity numbers. But the translation that needed to be done to help folks understand, we're gonna have to put our money literally where our mouth is, was significant. But really being able to just speak with passion out of the love that I have for the community, and being able to bring so many others and letting others speak for the community has just been a blessing. So I just think, and I think that's been a theme of everything that I've heard here today, as we continue to fight this fight, our strength and our power. Nikki Giovanni said, Black love is Black wealth, is in our love that we have for each other, the love of God that gets us going in the morning. So I don't know how articulate that was, but that's what
great.
gets me going.
Wonderful. It was wonderful. It was awesome, and we are so grateful for you, Chanel, for all of you, for your voice, your presence there. We know it's not easy, and I thank you for speaking up about being inside. And Tanya, I also thank you for speaking up when I mentioned that. Because just as we close, you know, my moment of being somewhat emotional, it is not because I'm not blessed. Baby, I'm blessed and I'm favored. Do you understand?
Amen.
But what is not okay, Mama Dukes, is for me to be the only one, or what is not okay is for me to have access and to have when they pull back the curtain and to see that this don't look good. So that is the piece that gets me really emotional. And one just evidence of that, I had the privilege, I was asked to judge corporations and how they're doing in supplier diversity. I said, oh, this is nice, Shay, Kimberly. I said, okay. And I'm busy, and I said, okay, I will do this. And one of the WGs, my WG girlfriends, that would be my white girlfriends, said on the call, they know, they know, we make distinctions. I'm making distinctions. She said it took 7 hours to review the application. I was like, well, I don't really have 7 hours, but let's see. And I was the only one, no, I was actually two who were doing the judging. And so on a Saturday, I looked through all of the corporate applications who were applying for corporate awards and who they were doing business with, Joy, and who they were serving. And I'm looking through all of the applications from the Fortune 500s and the Fortune 100s. And I'm waiting to see somebody who looks like me. Because I can go to your website, I can see what you're doing. And so I was tasked, Rachel, to have insight and then to name the companies. Rhonda, you know where I'm going. And I'm waiting to see people who look like me. And they're not there. When I did find one company and maybe two that was ethnically ambiguous, the one that was clearly black, it was only DC Marshall. And I cried. Because I'm not proud of that. You know why, Melanie? Because it is not okay for it to just be us. Because I've been hanging out with the people in this room way too long, but now I have to smile and say, okay, well, here's my number one, number two. Luckily, there was a rubric. But what I'm saying is when I got emotional, and I thank you for acknowledging, it's not because I'm not emotional for me. This is not about me. But you understand when you hang out in rooms like this, you can't sit still and know how our people are being treated. And so it was not okay. And then and then weeks later, Cheryl, the corporations, they folks go up to get the awards. They're Tanya Lombard equivalents that don't look like Tanya Lombard. They prance and they accept an award for being the top corporation to do X and Y and Z, but they are not doing anything for people who look like me. And so forgive me for the personal privilege to say this is why this room is important. This is why it's important to have these conversations, for us to hold each other accountable and know that when we hold the seat and we're in the door, that we are not there for ourselves, that we are there to hold the door open. And so thank you for acknowledging that. Thank you so much for this panel. And thank you. We are going to do we're going to do a photo. Melanie is moving us. And just as we are rounding this out, this panel, it was a conversation with Black women leaders in comms, and the way Melanie and Tanya do this in the last 2 years is to have a spotlight so that we can connect later. Women in comms, women in DEI and philanthropy, and then the first was women in technology. And so we're gonna, a round of applause for the panel. And we're gonna stand up for a photo. They're gonna do a photo. And then I am going to hand this back over to Melanie Campbell. So thank you so much. Thank you for bearing with us for the time and the time crunch, but we thank you so much for your time and your voice. Yeah. And it's folks have asked, it's DC Marshall on IG. I will post the story there. Oh, get in the picture.
Is Dr. Cheryl Still here? Dr. Cheryl? Dr. Cheryl? Going once? Oh, yeah. Oh, there she is. Come on up. Come on up. Can we please give C. Marshall, D. Marshall, Rachel, Gwen, Rhonda, Renee, Chanel. Give them a round of applause. Diane, Babylon, come up for closing. And before I turn it over, I want to thank some of our folks. I don't know if she's still here, but Dr. Barbara Williams Skinner was here. I see some of our youngins who I can say I poured into. I think they left though, I think. But and I saw Sheena Mead, CEO Clean Slate. Of course, it's so good to see Ebony. She was here. Ebony Riley. Oh, there she go. Ebony Riley. Seeing you, my sister, who's Executive Vice President of Washington Bureau. Nan. And another sister who supports our Black Women's Roundtable, Teresa Kennedy from Oxfam. And thank you, everyone. We're going to have those affirmations, and Tanya will close up. I'm going to have my vice chair of our board do what I would have done, which is to say thank you. And Tanya, okay, Cheryl, and then we turn to her, and then we're done. Okay.
So thank you. I had it all worked out. I thought I would come up walking and talking. So I just want to start by saying that I am responsible, excuse me, I am responsible for the energy that I bring into the room. That affirmation is for you. I am responsible for the energy that I bring into the room. My mindset is my superpower. So all these powerful sisters that were here, we got here by having the mindset to be here and stay here. As I sat over there and I thought about what affirmations I would give to you, this is what the Lord gave me to give to you. As powerful sisters, these are things that we often forget. I make myself a priority in my own life. See, we're so busy babysitting everybody and making sure that everybody else is okay except for us. So I make myself a priority in my own life. I don't know about you, but I make my peace priceless and non-negotiable. My peace is priceless and non-negotiable. I show myself the same grace that I show others. We want to give everybody else so much leeway. We have to give ourselves the same grace that we show others. I tell myself yes more often than I tell other people yes.
What you say now?
What? We are constantly telling people yes when the answer should be no. And not no, I have to pay my kids' tuition. No, I have to get my hair done. It's just no. I tell myself yes. I live a life that I don't need a vacation from. Yes. See, when you adopt that, you won't wait until the end of the month saying, oh, it's just 3 more weeks before I can take my vacation. When you live boldly, fiercely, and unapologetically, you live a life that you don't need a vacation from. You living it every day. The last one I have for you, because I know that we're short on time, but I want you to get this in your spirit real good. I want you to walk in the room like God sent you. In every room, in every space, in every place, you need to walk in like you're supposed to be there. You're supposed to walk in there and disrupt the room with your mere presence without saying a word. So if any of these affirmations have touched you, blessed you, left a giggle in your spirit, I want to invite you right now to take out your phones and follow me on Instagram at Cheryl P. Williamson, because I have a motivational and inspirational word almost every single day to make you realize that you have everything inside you to do that thing that God has called you to do boldly, fiercely, and unapologetically. Thank you, Tanya. I love you.
Good word.
All right, one more. Can I say unapologetic? Get ready for the movement. And thank you all for attending our 2nd annual Women on the Move. I'll change the name, but that's what we do all the time. Thank you.
And of course, Thank you, Diane Babineau. And we cannot leave out here without giving another special thank you to our sister Tanya Lombard. Yes, ma'am. Just want to come up here. Yeah, I know, but unapologetically, we're going to thank you. Okay? All right. Just a little, gave you them colors you wear. Oh, we got it. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your Congressional Black Caucus Foundation weekend. God bless you. Peace and power.